The European Union intends to agree on the 18th package of sanctions today. This was announced by German Chancellor Friedrich Merz. The measures include a ban on both Nord Streams and a lowering of the price cap on Russian oil. EU leaders will try to reach an agreement at their next summit, which is taking place in Brussels. Details from Radio Liberty correspondent Zoryana Stepanenko.
Almost all participants of this latest summit in Brussels arrived here not from their own capitals, but from The Hague, where the NATO summit was held. The commitments reached there are now being discussed here. They are analyzing how to finance the increase in defense spending to 5% of GDP. Ukraine is, as usual, on the EU leaders' agenda, but it shouldn't expect any breakthrough decisions from this summit. There were plans to open the so-called negotiation chapters. This is a significant step forward on the country's path to EU membership. However, it won't be possible to take this step because of Viktor Orban. Diplomats who prepared the summit do not believe that the Hungarian Prime Minister will change his position anytime soon, especially against the backdrop of the so-called referendum held by the Hungarian government. Today, Budapest announced its results. 95% of Hungarians, they say, are against Ukraine's EU membership.
The problem is the war. If we take Ukraine into the EU, then together with it we will be integrating the war. And we don't want to be in the same community with a country that is at war and poses a direct threat to us. Because if an EU member is at war, that means the EU is at war too. We don't like that.
I asked Orban if he would change his mind in the event of a ceasefire. He didn't answer, he just said that right now no one is stopping it. Volodymyr Zelensky traditionally briefs the leaders on the situation on the battlefield and Ukraine's needs. This happens online at the European Council. Radio Svoboda was told that the president of Ukraine, who was invited to the summit, is not here in person due to logistical reasons. I should note that yesterday evening he was in Strasbourg and from there he headed home. Perhaps not least because of the lack of decisions in Brussels that Kiev would consider strong. The leaders' ambitions are to reach political agreement at the summit on extending the existing sanctions against Russia, as well as to agree on the introduction of a new 18th package. They hope to overcome the resistance of Hungary and Slovakia, who are dissatisfied with the plans to abandon Russian energy resources. This is not part of the 18th package, but both countries view everything as a whole. Diplomats who prepared the summit and are not authorized to give official comments to the media believe that the two countries will give the green light to new sanctions, but they seriously doubt that within these measures the leaders will agree to lower the price cap on Russian oil. This was among the proposals of the European Commission. They say that without the United States, this is unlikely, and Washington is not currently ready for new sanctions against Russia. Secretary of State Marco Rubio explained, they are avoiding pressure on Moscow because they want to give diplomacy a chance.
They are not talking to anyone in Europe. They are not talking to anyone else in the world who is on our side in this matter and sees it the same way we do. If the US president imposes sanctions, he is essentially admitting that negotiations will not take place in the near future.
The EU Leaders Summit is scheduled for 2 days, today and tomorrow. But if the discussions don't drag on, they might finish even tonight. At least that's the plan. Everyone is tired of The Hague. From Brussels, Zoryana Stepanenko, Marek Hajduk, Radio Svoboda, especially for TSN 1+1.
Trump's plan has been carried out. The American CIA has announced significant damage to Iran's nuclear program amid the scandal over the information leak. Earlier, a number of reputable media outlets, citing sources in the U.S. Department of Defense, reported that intelligence, in its assessment, believes that the U.S. strikes on Iran managed to push back the country's nuclear program only by a few months, rather than completely destroying it, as Donald Trump claimed. The American president immediately criticized the media, while the Central Intelligence Agency, citing new intelligence from a historically reliable and accurate source, assures that the damage has set back Iran's nuclear program by years. Meanwhile, the Pentagon has launched an investigation into the leak of information about its report, and the Trump administration plans to limit the sharing of classified information with Congress after the current leak. A propaganda referendum with a predictable outcome. The Hungarian authorities have announced the results of the poll regarding Ukraine's accession to the European Union. The referendum was conducted by Prime Minister Orban's ruling party. He also made a point of voting himself. Budapest claims that 95% of those surveyed opposed Ukraine's accession to the EU. I should note that, according to official Budapest data, 2,278,000 Hungarians participated in Orban's referendum, and that's only a third of the total number of eligible voters. Moreover, the leader of the Hungarian opposition party, TSA, Peter Magyar, previously stated that the actual number of people who voted is even lower. We're talking about roughly 600,000 people. The Ukrainian Ministry of Foreign Affairs calls the Hungarian referendum a crude manipulation and emphasizes that such a poll has nothing to do with the principles of democracy, openness, or transparency. They were discovered